Hey there, crafty friends! It's Tina from the Scrappin Rabbit blog. Thanks so much for stopping by my channel today. In today's video, we're going to make a Halloween Slimline shaker card using some stamps from the 7 Kids Craft Store's latest release. So let's go ahead and get started. So the two stamp sets I'm going to be using are the Halloween Fairies as well as the Halloween Kids, and I'm going to use that adorable little witch and the adorable little kitty in a sentiment from this set here. Now I like to stamp my images and emboss them with some clear embossing powder. So I'm going to go ahead and prep my paper with my anti-static tool, and I'm going to use some VersaFine black ink, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp my images. I usually double stamp just so that I get nice clear impression, and then using some clear embossing powder, I'm going to go ahead and get my heat tool heated up nice and hot. And once it's hot, I'll go ahead and melt that powder down. And look at how adorable is this little image. So I went ahead and stamped several images from these two sets, but I'm going to use the witch and that little cat for this card. So for coloring, I'm going to start off with the face. And I like to start with my second to darkest color. In this case, it's the E11 for this combination. And I'm going to get the arms and the neck and the legs. Then I blend it out with the E00. And then once I have that, I'm going to go ahead and add the little cheeks with the R21 and blend that next layer out with the E000. So that's basically my first layer of color. Then I'm going to go in with my darkest color, the E4 for the shadows. So this is where I'm going to go in there at the very edges to where the darkest shadows will be on my image. And then once I have that done, I'm going to blend it out with the E11. Getting all of those little areas. Then I'll blend that out with the E00, bringing it all towards the center of the face. And then using the or adding another layer for the cheeks, sorry about that, then using the E000. Once I go over all those areas again with the E000, then I'll bring out my lightest color, which is the E0000, and then blend all that color towards the center of the face. And I find that that gives me a nice contrast. Oh, and then I realized that I forgot to color that other little ear there. Sometimes it's hard to see all the little areas when you have a detailed image like this. Blending out just a little bit more with the E00. Now I'm going to work on the hair, and I decided to make her a little red-haired girl, red-haired fairy. So going in with my second to darkest color, the E09, I'm going to just go ahead and flick some of that color of that hair strands, and then blend that out with my next lightest color, the E08. And when you're doing hair, sometimes it just looks like a hot mess, and once you get those layers of color, it starts to come together. I'm going to blend that out with my lightest color, the E11, and I'm just going to flick some of the hair strands towards the center, trying to keep an area that shows some of the highlights. I do like to do at least a double layer there, and I wait until that second layer to go in there with my darkest color, which in this case is the E18. I'm just getting just the tips and the edges of the different areas of the hair. And once I fill those in, I can blend that out with the E09. And then again, working from the darkest to the light, bringing the color towards the center of the different areas of the hair. After the E9 comes the E08, and I'll go ahead and blend that out, getting all those little areas, bringing that color towards the center. And then again with my lightest color, which is the E11. And then I'll blend out any of those harsh areas to try to smooth it all out. Sometimes you need to just step back and take a look at it. And then in this case, I wanted to fill it in just a little bit more, just to draw in some more of those strands so that it didn't look like there was a separation between the top and the bottom of the hair. So moving on to the little dress, I'm going to go ahead and use my V15. And the V15 is going to be the second to darkest color, and I'm just kind of outlining where I think the shadows are going to be. And then I'll blend that out with the V12. It just takes a while to kind of figure out how you want the image to be. I'm not as confident with clothing yet. I'm still working on my technique, and I feel like the more I practice, the better I get, and that's what I just recommend for everybody. It's just keep practicing because you're going to get better over time. And with each image that I color, I do feel like I see more depth, I see more dimension, I start to see things coming together better. I find the color combinations that work well for me, and that's what I do. And so now I'm blending that out with the V12 and bringing the color to the center of the dress. And then my lightest will be the V01. And I do like to layer that color, so I'm going to go in again with my darkest color, get in those shadowy areas, the darker layers where you're going to have the folds, and then again blending that out with my next color, the V15. And then when you bring that color down and you bring it towards the center, it deepens it, and then now I'm going to get a nice purple shade that I wanted for that little dress. And blending it out again, the highlighted areas, the V01. So moving on to the hat, I'm going to use my tonal grays, and I'm going to start with the T9, just kind of outline it, figuring out where I want to add some of the shading and where I want it to be highlighted. And so I'm just kind of going in there with my initial little outline. Then I'll blend that out a little bit with the T7, bringing that color out just a little bit. And then here is the T5. And it's always good to be more generous with the lighter colors because it's easier to add the layers and to deepen those colors than if you start too dark and then you're trying to lighten it. That's a little bit more difficult. So now I'm going to blend all those areas out with the T3, kind of outlining it a little bit more how I want the coloring to be. And then I'll add my lightest color, the very highlight, which is the T1. So once I get that first layer on, I'm going to go in with my deepest color, which is the 100, and that is going to be where I outline the darkest areas of the hat. And then that adds a little bit of contrast and gives it a little more dimension. And then I'll blend that out with the T9, bringing that color out a little bit more. And in that same order, go from the T7, and then the T5, and then I'll go ahead and fill in more color, making the hat a little bit darker. And then that's the T3, I'm blending that all out. And then again, the highlight is the T1. And I'll blend that underside out just a little bit as well. Now it's time to do those little boots, and I'm going to use that same color combo. These are little teeny tiny boots. It's the T9, the T7, the T5, and then blend that out with the T3 and then the T1. Going back in with the 100 and then blending that out just a little bit. Little tiny dots because the area is so tiny. Blending it with the T7 and the T5 and then the T3. Going on to her wings, I'm just going to feather out a little bit of the V22, blend that out just a bit with the V000, and then I'm going to get my Spectrum Noir Sparkle marker, and that kind of blends the Copics out just a little bit and adds lots and lots of shimmer to her adorable little wings. Now that her wings are done, it's time to move on to that broom. I'm going to use the YR24, going in there with the darkest areas, blending it out with the Y26, and the highlight color is the Y21. Going in there for that second round of color, doing the same 3 colors. And then for this stick, I'm going to use my E40s, so the E44, the E43, and then the E42. Now she has this little area of her eyes. I wanted to give her some green eyes, so I'm going to use the YG, I think it was her eyes were the YG67, YG63, and then the G20 for the little highlight in her eye. 2 layers of that, and then I'm moving on to that cute little kitty. So I'm going to use my warm grays for the kitty because I wanted it to be a different color than the hat. So I'll start with the W7 and then blend that out with the W5, leaving that center area of the cat the lightest, blending out with the W3. Then going in with my W9 as my darkest shade, outlining that adorable little kitty. And then I'll go ahead and blend it out with the W7 and the W5, and then again the W3, filling in that area and blending it all out. So now I'm going to get my Slimline card base, and I cut out the scallop layer using the Mama Elephant Slim Card Basics. And then I have this top layer that I used these memory box and poppy dies so that I can make the little shaker. There's those little dangling spiders and then the web. I created my own little sequin mix for Halloween, and that's what I'm going to use to fill my shaker. So for the plastic, I use the Duralar, and that's an acetate alternative. It comes in a stack, and it's it's a good deal when you buy it that way. I'm just going to use some double-sided adhesive tape to go around that web, and then that'll be where I can go ahead and place my little piece of the Duralar film. So that will be my shaker window right there. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab my Simply Defined foam adhesive sheets from my local scrapbooking store. I like that it's the thicker foam and it's really super easy to use. So I'm just going to cut out the little shapes that I need to go around the card. I have the little strips to make my window, and that's going to give me a nice solid top layer for my card. Using my anti-static tool, I'm going to go ahead and fill in those areas, and then I'll go ahead and fill that window with my beautiful spooky Halloween sequin mix. I do try to put in just enough sequins so that it does shake around, and then I'm going to cut out another little piece of Duralar just to tape that to the back side. I find that that's so much easier than trying to flip it over the other way onto your card panel. So now I just need to add some adhesive over that Duralar piece, and then I have that shaker that I could just go ahead and stick directly to that scalloped webbed layer. Now the little dangling spiders left little holes, so I went ahead and cut those out again with some black glittered cardstock so that there's some little sparkly dangling spiders on the front of my card. And then now I'm going to go ahead and glue that using some liquid glue to my Slimline card base. Now that I have that adhered, it's time for the finishing touches to get my image down. And so I'm going to go ahead and stamp a sentiment, Bugs and Hisses, from that Halloween Kids stamp set. And then using some liquid glue, I'm going to go ahead and glue the adorable little witch and the little teeny tiny kitty. Get all those on there. It's already a thick card, so I'm not going to pop them up with double-sided foam tape since it's already has that thick shaker layer on the front. Adding some glue to the sentiment strip, get that on there. Bugs and Hisses. You get the little bugs and the little kitty, so I think that that's perfect. Now, just so that she doesn't look like she's floating in thin air, I'm going to ground her using some of my warm gray markers. The W3, blending it out with the W1, and the W0, and then going ahead with one more layer of that. And then now it looks like she's standing with the kitty on a surface and not floating in outer space. And then now that the ground is on there, it's time to add just a little bit more sparkle. So I'm using some iridescent sequins from my stash, and I'm just going to glue those down with some art glitter glue, because you can't ever have too much sparkle, I should say. And then just a couple more on the top, and then that is it. That is my finished card. So there you have it, a Halloween Slimline shaker featuring the 7 Kids Craft Store Halloween fairies and that adorable kitty from the Halloween Kids, as well as the sentiment. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope you'll go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Here are a couple more videos that you might be interested in. Thanks so much for stopping by today. I do appreciate it, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Happy crafting, and until next time, bye for now.